Nioh 3 is coming out soon, and a couple people have asked me if I'll be covering it. Answer is no, and in this video I'll give my reasons why that is. Many have joined the channel based on a Nioh and Nioh 2 guides, so there's quite a few people on the channel that are going to play Nioh 3 that might expect guides on RPG Division. This channel is, after all, one of the stronger channels on YouTube for Nioh 1 content. Nioh 2 not so much, but was still doing good enough. I also gave up on Nioh 2 before reaching the abyss, meaning the end game content, since it was the same crap again. I loved Nioh 1 and have attained great insight about the game over time, you sweet bastards. Also probably the first game, or one of the first, where I figured that early game builds and guides are more important than the later ones. It's just the way Nioh plays during the first playthrough. Not many builds can be constructed, but I figured small things that make one of the most complex games out there in terms of combat gameplay into a very simple and easy one. That takes understanding and knowledge of the game. One of the prominent YouTubers playing Team Ninja games told me that a lot of the Team Ninja community laughs at that type of build content, thinking I suck at the game so can only do those types of builds where skill is not necessary. I never really cared about what anyone else thinks, especially not Team Ninja fanboys, who some of them I've learned over time have critical thinking as deep as a puddle. Had plenty of Nioh streams a long time ago where people saw what I could do. Basically I was good at Nioh, not great or amazing or whatever else. And I had great understanding on how to make such a complex game as easy as possible, which can rub the skillful players the wrong way, I guess. Rampant egoism, as with every game where there's some skill needed, nothing new. Not every Team Ninja fan is like that, so don't think I'm putting everyone in the same basket. Some people have acknowledged problems that the game has and many things it could and should do a lot better, but still love and enjoy the game nonetheless. No one says that you can't enjoy, like, dislike or hate the game. I'm just trying to emphasize the critical thinking part of being aware of what we play. Otherwise we get copy-paste games selling as hotcakes every year based not on quality but marketing. I have a problem with that. Just look at the top selling games in the USA in 2025. This is a disgrace. There are few good and great games on the list, but most are annual mediocrities. This channel was created for two reasons. First reason was to help people in any way possible. That includes also guiding the least skilled players through tough games to give them an option to stay with the game long enough to get better so they can do it on their own eventually. Basically not to give up instantly due to ever-increasing cheap difficulty designs in games. Second reason was to save people time. Only meaningful information provided throughout every guide. No time wasting on bullshit no one cares about. No artificially prolonging videos to get to a certain timestamp to enable more ads. Always had unskippable ads turned off not to annoy viewers. Even now have mid-rolls turned off, which is the only option YouTube allows these days, the scumbags. Thing is that I care about your time, not about your feelings, and that will not change. So I know that I'm doing a good thing here with reviews and guides because I don't cater to anyone. If a good game comes out and my content can push it, that is great. It means a positive force has been created that is going to affect the gaming industry by a very small, maybe insignificant margin at times. Still, it's the best I can do trying to keep things fair towards games while trying to increase awareness about what we are playing. In my opinion, the gaming industry, especially AAA, has made very little progress. The way games should have been by now should be miles ahead, but due to corporations and shareholders taking over, looking for profit over quality, we have copy-paste games with mediocre systems and mechanics, unfinished products with DLCs planned before the initial release, poorly optimized games on release, devious gambling mechanics, psychological plays on tedium with few dopamine hits mixed in just to get the players to stay with the repetitive tedium. Whenever there's focus on profit, quality suffers. Thankfully, AA and the indie industry are doing a good job in offering alternatives, but the big bucks games outside of a few titles are a big disappointment. What does that have to do with Team Ninja and Nioh? Well, I simply don't want to support Team Ninja and their games anymore. They copy-paste a lot. Basically they take Nioh or Ninja Gaiden's combat system, modify it a bit, surround it by incredibly weak aspects just so they can call it a full new game or a new installment. I loved Nioh 1, and instead of working on many flaws that the game had, they doubled down on weak elements of the game such as grinding and repetition. Some things have improved though, make no mistake, Nioh 2 is better than Nioh 1, but it was essentially Nioh 1.5. Same big flaws like the horrible difficulty progression design through way of the dumb SRE++, barely any builds available through the first playthrough with focus on builds for the subsequent playthroughs, which made the gameplay weaker due to less effective moves going against ever-increasing cheap bosses that also had the new idiotic super buffs. The grindy effects mechanic, which was better in Nioh 2. Overall focus on RNG just to artificially prolong game time. With every new subsequent playthrough, Nioh games start to play more like menu simulators and boss rushes. First playthrough for me was always the best. It was difficult, sometimes cheap as hell, but it really played great with a vast array of skills being available and effective. Then it all becomes about DPS in later playthroughs because it has to, due to silly damage numbers from bosses and the need for grind. You want to make things as fast as possible, to get to the desired items as fast as possible. This is where the game becomes mediocre at best. It's a game full of duality and opposites. Tries to do too many things at once, too ambitious. Much better studios would have a tough time cracking the duality of Nioh, let alone subpar studio like Team Ninja that has good game mechanics idea every 5 years next to 10 terrible ones. Though I will say, if you like mindless tedium from action RPG Diablo-esque genre, Nioh might just be the game I would recommend before any other because of the incredible combat. None of the Diablo-esque games have that high level third person action. What they've accomplished with combat in Nioh is incredible. Too bad nothing else is incredible about Nioh. Everything else ranges from bad to mediocre. So naturally the easiest way to offset weaker content outside of combat is through repetitive RNG tedium from one of the worst genres in gaming, which is the Diablo-esque genre. Worst because of the methods used to keep players playing. Repetitive tedium with dopamine hits mixed in. So even though I loved Nioh 1, Nioh 2 disappointed me greatly. Few improvements, but the duality of the game stayed and had become the norm for Nioh. That duality is why Nioh will never be a great game. Instead, it's gonna stay in the mediocre to good range. Next to that duality, new mechanics were added that created quite a bit of system bloat. Some of them were good, some of them were unnecessary. I love combat encounters, dojo 1 vs 1, human bosses, and everything else where a full array of skills could be used in this incredible combat system. But the more you play, the more it becomes a numbers game and menu simulator time waste. Some people like that type of stuff, I have no problem with that, but I do have a problem with when people say such cheaply copied Diablo-esque system is a great design. It's the lowest of the low, something a child couldn't think of. Then I played the Nioh 3 demo after playing almost all the Team Ninja games in between Nioh 2 and 3. Seen a notable regression in those. Stranger of Paradise was decent, their best game after Nioh, but a step back in combat in some ways as far as I can remember. Still a decent game at least. Then Wolong came and this is where it was clear combat was becoming worse, which was really sad because they came up with a brilliant plus-minus system. Then the ultimate shit game was released, which is Rise of Ronin. Even combat couldn't be called good anymore. Done a video assessing what went wrong there. In short, it's too messy and inconsistent, with tons of cheap difficulty increases through instant recovery, tracking, instant distance attack animation covering attacks, and many other small details that reduce the combat quality. There was a lot of bullshit, way less polished than Nioh. A mess. Story seemed better than Nioh though, so there's that. Rest of the game's aspects were laughable. At this point I was done with Team Ninja, constantly regressing without any creative effort to improve their games overall. It seems like they get one good idea that improves something from their previous games, but then the rest of it is not up to par. One step forward, 10 steps back. One good idea in Wolong with the plus-minus thing destroyed by the rest of the game. I did force myself to try the Nioh 3 demo. It's Nioh after all, was interested in ways they are going to fuck it up. I think the good idea for Nioh is the open world. They ditched those weak level path designs in favor of an open world. In my opinion, a step forward, cause killing big bosses and then being blocked by a barrel in order to find a very specific path to progress bothered me a lot. In every game that does it, not just Nioh. Of course, next to that good idea there is a bad one, ninja and samurai playstyle switch. Why? It makes no sense. Both playstyles were present on the fly already depending on what kind of build we were running. That was the beauty of the build system, choosing to play as strictly samurai, ninja or something in between with a touch of magic. It also means that now we have 2 equipment sets at once, which will most likely lead to doubling the grind. I also noticed some things from Ronin making its way into Nioh 3 next to more mechanics added, because that's what Nioh needs, more mechanics. This is where I admitted to myself finally that I'm done with Team Ninja. I have no will to play their games anymore because they have showcased only regression so far with few good ideas here and there. I also don't want to support the franchise and the studio. They have plenty of blind fanboys that are going to continue supporting their mediocre attempts and applauding at the regression. Don't need me for that. Is it a good business decision on my side? No, of course not. I would get some views from Nioh 3, but not as much as from Nioh 1. Would rather lose monetarily than play something like Nioh for a long time, being disappointed more and more as the game progresses. Logical counter-argument would be, you've played plenty of mediocre games before, how come Nioh is the one where things change? Because I know Nioh and Team Ninja, and I've played the Nioh 3 demo, so I can make an educated guess. For other mediocre and subpar games that I've played, I can't make such an educated guess because I know nothing about the games beforehand. Simple as that. Do I think Nioh 3 is going to be bad, subpar or something around that area? No, it's still going to be a mediocre to good game like it was before, depending on how the full product plays out. As long as they don't screw up combat, which I don't think they will. After all, that's the only thing they ever did well. Best thing for Team Ninja would be to start outsourcing combat to other studios so that the other studios can create a good game around it without cheap ideas and filler content. Anyway, I just wanted to make everything clear through this video. If Nioh 3 ends up being truly something else like a big improvement, then great. Team Ninja would surprise many by accomplishing such a feat. Everyone wins if the game is great, right? I want every game to be great. Do I have trust in Team Ninja? No. I'm at zero capacity when it comes to hope for their games. They showed their inability recently plenty of times for me to have any hope. Anyway, Patreon, subscribe, star merch in the description. Thanks for watching.